This video tutorial is to show everyone the answers to the Week 1 Assignment 2 GIS Skills Technical Documentation. To get started, I'm going to show you guys how to connect to data. First, we're going to add an existing shapefile to our ArcPro project. So I've already opened ArcPro and saved a project in the location where I want it to be saved. So in order to add my first shapefile, I'm going to go up here to the Insert tab. Then I'm going to click on Add Folder. And then I'm going to use this area to navigate to the location where the data folder is. You can see it's already in there, but I'm just going to show you guys how I do that. So I usually click on this PC, go to my desktop, GIS2, and then this was from week 1. It's assignment 1.2. And the data folder that I shared with you guys was called data_1.2. So I'm going to click on that. I'm not going to click into it because then it would be the project. So, and now if I connect to this, it's not going to have any shapefiles in it when I open up the catalog pane. So let me show you that one more time. So I'm in week 2, 1.2, and the folder with the shapefiles in the file Geodatabase is this data_1.2. So I'm going to make sure that's selected. The name is here, and I'm going to click OK. Now I can view that in the catalog pane by going to the View tab, clicking Catalog pane, expanding the Folders section, and here you can see I've connected to that data_1.2 folder, and it has everything, including this new file Geodatabase that shouldn't be in there, but it has the project that I initially made for this, as well as that file Geodatabase that I shared with you guys, and the fire hydrant shapefile. So to add this shapefile, you can either drag and drop it into the map view, just like that, and it will zoom to the layer. If I back that up, I can also show you that I can right-click on it and click Add to Current Map. The last way you can add a layer is simply by clicking on it and dragging it from the catalog pane into the table of contents pane. You can see I dragged it underneath the base map, so it is not drawing even though it is checked. To solve that problem, you just need to move it up in the drawing order. Next, we are going to add an existing file Geodatabase to our project. You can actually see that since it was in that main folder that I connected to in the first step, this file Geodatabase is already here in the catalog pane. But if this file Geodatabase was saved in a different folder that you had not connected to, the way that you will add it is by going to the Insert tab, then clicking on Connections, clicking on Database, and clicking Add Database. It can be kind of confusing, the difference between Add Database and New File Geodatabase, because when you're on Server and you click New Server, that connects you to a server. But when you're in the Database section and you click New File Geodatabase, that is trying to create a new file Geodatabase. So you just want to use the Add Database option. Once again, you're going to navigate to the location of that database, and it will tell you in here that it's a file Geodatabase, and you can see that it looks different from your folders. And once again, you're not going to click into it. You're just going to click on it and make sure it's filled in here in the name section, and then click OK. And now in the catalog pane, we can open up the database folder and see that we are connected to that database. And all 3 options for adding layers apply to databases as well as to adding layers from a folder. Next, I'm going to show you how to connect to a REST service. You do this by first finding the REST service URL. I already have it pulled up here on the Pages website under their online mapping tab. It is here in the middle underneath this red part. So you just copy and paste this. Another way quickly, so if you click into the REST service, you can see it looks like this. That's how you know it's a REST service. And you can actually also just copy and paste this part up here. If you click further into this, it's going to change the URL at the top, and you can once again copy and paste this. However, it will most likely only connect you to this part of the REST service. So if you want to connect to all of it, you can just click home again and it takes you back to that main page with that main URL to connect to. So now we're going to go back to our ArcPro project. Once again, we will be in the Insert tab, the Connections tool, and then the Server option, and we are adding a new ArcGIS server. So I'm going to paste that, and you want to make sure that you don't have duplicate HTTPS. I'm going to delete that, and for the Pages REST service, you don't need to log in. I've also found that some REST services will, once you click OK, it will request that you log in. And if you try to log in and it fails, I have had the luck where I've just been able to click OK and it adds the REST service anyways. I think it only does that. It's only adding stuff that they want the public to be able to view. If there's stuff that is hidden behind a like login framework, you probably won't be able to see that. But here you can see in the catalog pane that I have connected to a REST service. Before I had connected to that REST service, this server folder was not present in this catalog pane. And we can go to, say, Apps, Pulaski County, and add a ton of different layers that are for, or actually not. We can add 2 different layers that are for Pulaski County. I'm going to add this SCAD to the current map, and you can see that it draws the street center line, and this is going to be for the entire county. Might take a while to draw, but it's a pretty good data set. So that's how you connect to a REST service. Now I'm going to show you how to create a new file geodatabase. You might initially think that you go over here to databases and right click on this in order to do a new file geodatabase, but this option doesn't seem to work very well. It adds extra steps to the process. So the easiest way to do it is to expand your folder section, but first you need to make sure that you are connected to the folder that you want to save the file geodatabase in, and you can do that once again by using the Add Folder tool up here in the Insert tab. So once you're connected to the folder where you want to create the file geodatabase, you're going to right click on that folder and select New, and then File Geodatabase. Oops, I just selected Mobile. Just going to delete that real quick. Let's try that again. New File Geodatabase. And you can see there are no parameters that you need to input in order for it to create this. It just goes ahead and does it. So I am going to name this 1.2 answer. And it is as simple as that. To create a point feature class in a file geodatabase, or any feature class in a file geodatabase, you're going to connect or right click on that geodatabase, go up to New, and then click Feature Class. And this will pull up a separate dialog box where you have to input information. So you'll input the name and the alias. You will change the feature class type. So I think I asked you guys to create a point feature class, so you went ahead and changed that to point. You don't have to collect Z values. You can leave it if you want. And you can uncheck this Add Output Dataset to Current Map if you don't want to add it to your current map. This page 2 out of 6 is where you input the data fields that you want to be in your layer. And for this assignment, I requested that you guys add 1 field, so I'm just going to do a test, or I'm going to name it test, and we'll say I'll change it to a date field, and then test 2, and I will change it to a short integer. And you can see here when you select your field name, it pulls up additional options for you to fill in about adding an alias or allowing null values or inputting a default attribute like domain value. That will mean that anytime you add a record, it automatically is going to default to whatever value is in here. And so you do that, then you click next. You can change the spatial reference. We're going to talk about this later on in the semester, so this might not make much sense to you, and you don't really have to play around with this right now. So this, you don't want to change the XY tolerance or the Z tolerance. You don't need to change resolution. And you most likely don't want to set up a configuration keyword. So then you click finish and it's going to run. And then it's going to add that blank feature class to my project. You can tell that it's blank because no points are popping up, but also if you open the attribute table, it's not going to have any records in it. To add records to your feature class, you can close the attribute table. I'm going to close the catalog pane. You go to edit and create, and you can see that my test layer is here. Now, I can also add records to these other layers that are included in my contents pane, but they are not going to be made available in this create features pane unless I have them selected or turned on in the contents pane. So now if I go to create features, you can see those other options are available besides the SCAD, because that is a part of the REST service. If I wanted to add to the SCAD layer, I would have to export this using data to my own feature class, but it looks like they have that ability turned off because they don't want people stealing their data. Okay, so back to the create features. When you're in the create features pane, you want to select which layer you want to add a record to. And the point options are, there's not very many of them, so I usually just select this first one. And then you can add your point wherever you want on your map. But this is not all that you need to do. You next need to fill in the attribute data for this record or this point that you just added. To do that, you're going to then in the edit tab again, click on attributes, and it's going to pull up this attribute pane where I can fill in the date and fill in what I made that a short integer. So I'm just going to put the number 2. So you can see this is adding the attribute data, and then to save this attribute data, you're going to go back up to the ribbon, make sure you're in the edit tab, and then click save. And that is going to save your data. And then you will do that a couple more times in order to add all of your records. Let's just open up the attribute table and make sure, yep, the value's added, although it looks like the 2 did not work. So sometimes you have to make sure that you click enter. Once you've added your data into the last data field that you want to input information in, you need to click enter after you've clicked on it. Okay, once again, I'm going to save that. And now I have added a record to my feature class. Now I'm going to show you how to export a feature class into a shapefile. There are 2 ways to do this. The first is by right-clicking on the feature class in the contents pane and going down to data and then selecting export features. You want to make sure, unless you want to, so if you have a selection on your layer, it is only going to export the records that are selected. So it doesn't matter for this one because there's only one record. You can see it's still selected because it has that light blue color. To solve this problem, you can just simply go up here and click clear, and then you can refresh that and it's all good. So my input features are this test feature class that I created, and then I'm going to click on this folder next to output feature class, and this is how I am going to navigate to where I want this shapefile to be saved. If you don't navigate to a different place, it is just going to save it into your ArcPro folder that it created for this specific project. So I'm going to save it into my GIS 2 week 1. I'm just going to save it in this folder right here, and now I'm going to name it 1.2 practice shapefile. There are options to perform an SQL operation within this export features dialog box to only export some features. So that is an option. You can change field information. I've never used this feature of ArcPro before. And you can also set it up to sort your fields in a certain order, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm going to click OK. And I don't know why that named it 1. I thought I named it a bigger name, but oh well. Unfortunately, with the way that shapefiles work, if it exports with a name that you don't like, you cannot very easily just go in and change the name. Like, you can change the name as it shows in your map. Like, I can change this to 1.2 practice, and it will change in my map, but it is not going to change the file name in, like, on my computer. So you can see that shapefile is saved here, and it is just named 1, even though I changed it in here. Another thing for you guys to know is that when you see a lock file, that means that the shapefile is open in a program, and you won't be able to delete it or move it until the lock files are gone, and you just get those to go away by closing out the program that the shapefile is open in. Another way to, I'm going to try and export this with the right name now to show you guys the alternative method for exporting a feature class as a shapefile. So you go to your catalog pane and you go to the shapefile, where did I even, okay, so it's in this Geodatabase, and then you right click on the desired feature class and you click export. Then you are going to select Export Feature Class to Shapefile, and you're going to fill out the same information. Input features, you can leave that. Output feature class. I'm going to save it one more time. (1.2) Let's see, that might not work because of the period. I think that is maybe why that changed that. You don't want periods in your shapefile names because it kind of reads that as indicating the file type. So I think that is a mistake that I made to get this shapefile to save as just the number 1. So I'm going to save that and click Run. And there we go. Now it added it to my content pane with the correct naming. One more thing about this is if you are interested in moving a feature class that is in an existing file geodatabase, and you want to move that layer to a new file geodatabase, the way that you do this is by right-clicking on that layer, going to export, and instead of doing feature class to shapefile, you're going to do feature class to feature class. And you will only be able to save this in a file geodatabase. So I can see how even if I type in, well, it shouldn't let me save it. You have to have a geodatabase selected in order to open and then save the feature class in that new geodatabase. I'm going to skip over the sharing a file geodatabase step because that's not really something that you need to do in ArcPro. All you simply need to do is close out your ArcPro project that you're working in and then navigate to that file geodatabase in your folder structure. So for example, here's a file geodatabase, and if I want to save it or move it to a new folder, I'm just going to right click on it and click either cut or copy, and then I will paste it into the folder where I want it to be. Lastly, let's share an ArcGIS Pro project. You can do the same thing that I just showed you for a file geodatabase by navigating to the folder location, copying and pasting it where you want it to be. Another option is, and probably a better option, is to go to the Share tab. And in this package group, you're going to click on the Project tool. And this is a really nice tool. It allows you to package everything up all together so that your map views, your layout views, and your symbology, as well as any data from a geodatabase, is saved into this single package, and it makes it really easy to share a ArcPro project. You need to make sure, though, you're not uploading a package to online account. Instead, you want to save the package to a file, and you're going to want to navigate to where you want that package to be saved. So you go to your desktop or wherever you have your GIS2 folder, and you would click on it, and you have to name it. So this would be one, I don't know if it's going to take a dot. I'm just going to 1, 2, answers package. We'll see if that works. You can fill in summary information as well as tags if you'd like, but you don't necessarily have to do that, especially if you're only saving it as a file and not sharing it to an online account. And you'd want to make sure that the include toolboxes is clicked or the include history items are clicked. This is if you have a model that is saved in a toolbox. We are going to learn about models towards the very end of the semester, and they are saved in something called a toolbox, as well as the history items would include any geoprocessing history that you may want another map user to be able to check out. Like, say you're sharing this project with a coworker and you want them to be able to view the geoprocessing tools that you have run in the past. If you include the history items, it will include that information. And then you can click Analyze to see if there are any errors or warnings. If not, you can go ahead and click Package, and it will package it for you. Apparently I need to save my project first. So I'm going to go to Edit. That save is fine. So then I'm going to save here and click Package. It might take a few minutes to run, but once it does, you will have your ArcPro package saved in the location that you indicated. And I'm going to show you guys what it should look like. So I said I wanted it in week 2. There's so many things in here now. Here we go. So I saved it as the name of 12 answer_package. And you can see that this is now not a whole individual folder. It is something called a packaged project file. And a few of the students shared their project as a packaged file for this assignment, and it worked beautifully. Their data was connected, their symbology was saved, everything was just as it needed to be. So that is a very simple way to share a project with me for future assignments, or with your fellow students if you'd like to, or in the future with a coworker. I hope that this helped everyone, and I will see you guys in class.